Okay, AP Masteries. Let's see here. Sorcery for sure. Unless you're playing Kale or something like that, this is a no-brainer. You want that increased ability and spell damage. Spell damage, I think they classified it like that just to clarify that uh let's say you had like a passive effect like Fizz's W for instance, maybe that is considered spell damage. We'll see. I think double-edged sword is typically non a non-caster. Uh, hmm. I'm interested though. I'm interested in this mastery now. I want to say it's a non-caster mastery, but you deal straight up an additional 3% damage. It doesn't say like where. That means everything. You just deal 3% increased damage overall, and you only take 1.5%. So I want to say actually the double-edged sword is useful for melee, for AP melees. Like Biz, for instance, would go double-edged sword now. So let's do one first for melee, okay? Some of them might want spell vamp and lifesteal. I think if I'm melee, I probably care about the lifesteal and spell vamp a little bit more. And this is 10 damage and 15 ability power level 18 or 0.55 attack damage and 0.83 ability power per level, which isn't going to be like the greatest boost. Maybe you get more items based on the fact that you can stay in lane longer from your lifesteal, and spell vamp will help you better survive team fights, but the lifesteal is not going to be scaled up very much on a melee mage anyway, so hmm, this is actually interesting too. So I think I'd probably go with Oppressor because you're not planning on killing everyone on the enemy team, and if you do, maybe it's because of this mastery. Maybe Bounty Hunter is better once you know you have those kills, but since you're not always ahead, I want to say Oppressor is the better mastery here for AP melee. And as much as I would like to take Fervor of Battle on AP champions, Deathfire Touch is probably the right choice. 20% of your ability power and magic damage over 3 seconds. That's on each one of your abilities, so that's actually pretty substantial. And because of Deathfire Touch, what that means is that you can get a lot of magic penetration, and that's just going to scale up off of your masteries. The magic penetration will scale up your masteries now. Whereas before, it kind of had synergy with your masteries, but not in the same way it does now, with straight up increased damage. So that's actually pretty substantial, and it should make penetration shoes and haunting guys a lot better. As for if I would go with cunning or resolve on a melee AP champion, I probably would go with resolve because you're gonna take more damage and you want the extra reduction there and the health, and probably reduce cooldowns as well. Okay, so that's AP melee. Maybe like Diana or Fizz, anything like that. This is what you want to run. And you can choose natural talent or vampirism depending on whether or not you value to do a little bit more damage once you hit full build, or if you want a little bit more help getting to your full build. Let's go with natural talent though. That's what looks better to me, because once you have full health, vampirism isn't as useful. I would say only take that if you really want the spell vamp for some reason. Okay, so AP melee. Now for AP ranged, gonna take sorcery still. But of course, I'll take Feast over Double-Edged Sword because ranged is take an additional 2% damage. And maybe this will be like a champion specific mastery now. I'm not sure about right now. Maybe if there's like a champion that just needs a little bit more damage and has some sort of built-in survivability. Like Yasuo is a good example of someone who uses double-edged sword well, but as far as ranged, I can't think of that many offhand. Because remember, even though you do 2% more damage, just taking 2% more damage is the hard part to deal with. Yeah, and for a ranged uh, AP, maybe you take like, I don't know, 2 points in this. Does it matter? You can run a couple points in each one if you want. You can run 5 in one. I would probably go for the lifesteal and spell vamp just to make myself have a stronger lane. And because I'm not gonna go resolve for ranged, I'm gonna go with cunning. So if we were to go thematically here, ranged champions, they have CC a little bit, but typically they have more damage in their kits. Well, no, that's not how I meant it. Like they have more access to their damage. So 2.5% increased damage for a melee champion when they're gonna blow their whole combo within those 2 seconds. That might be great. But then for a ranged champion, you're gonna want that percent increased damage overall, I would think. So Bounty Hunter here and Deathfire Touch. So there's another option for AP Masteries, which I'll go over in a second, but let me finish this tree. I don't see a reason. I don't see the difference between these two right now. Maybe Wanderer will prove to be a good mastery, but Savagery seems like the better choice. And depending on if your champion is blue buff reliant or just buff reliant in general, you may want to take Runic Affinity. I think just so that I have a better lane, I would probably go with Secret Stash. And as much as I want meditation, I would go with Merciless because that's just too good to pass up, the extra damage. 5% increased damage, champions below 40% health. And of course, Dangerous Game. Alright, so now we'll go with generic AP, like alternate page. Armor and magic penetration. This is probably going to be like the best on supports. Someone like Leona. But that doesn't mean you can't build this way on AP. Maybe on support Lulu or like mid, you would take this mastery. Wind Speaker's Blessing. Storm Raider's Surge is typically going to be for uh really bursty champions. I can't really see this master being that good though, because if you can deal 30% of a champion's max health within 2 seconds, wouldn't you want more damage to go along with that? So I think most people will opt for the Ferocity Tree as opposed to taking this, which is pretty much full utility mastery, and for some reason it's in cunning or defense. I don't know. They sort of retooled these, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that this is a cunning mastery. So yeah, this is your other option, Thunderlord's Decree. Right off the bat, though, I just want to say that this this page is probably superior to this page, because you get percent penetration over here and you're only getting flat penetration over here. If you could get both, then that would be great, but you can't. So you take the increased ability damage, and you have the choice of whether or not you even want to go any further into this tree. But it only gives you an extra point, so is that really worth it? Probably not. Like, where do you put the extra point? The split trees are not going to be as good this season. Maybe something like that is what you want, though. Like, I'm just throwing out options here so that you can see what the potential is. These are subject to change, of course, and I'll update with more videos, but I won't be able to cover everything, so I just hope that most of my viewers understand that this is where the changes are, or this is where the masteries stand right now. This is what you can do, and this is probably a throwaway mastery. This is probably a throwaway mastery outside of 80 carry. There's just certain masteries that aren't going to be that great, and you have to see that value. As well as some being overtuned. Like, you could, theoretically, you could use Fervor of Battle on every single class. Just for fun, we'll drop an AP page that uses Fervor of Battle. Doesn't look all that different. Like, it really doesn't matter what you do outside of your playstyle. They're giving you the options now. Before, where there was always going to be one better option than another, is not always the case now. I think Merciless is really good though. Anytime you can pick that mastery up, you probably should. So that would be AP Masteries.